along the banks of the Great Miami River in Piqua, Ohio. Tucked quietly away in the hillside and nearly forgotten by time, sits a hidden relic of the city's brewing past. Most people drive by without ever realizing what lies behind the trees and earth, but carved into the hillside is an old beer cellar, a man-made stone cave that once played a vital role in Piqua's booming brewing history. The story begins in the late 1800s with a brewer named Henry Schneider. During the late 19th century, beer was more than a beverage. It was an industry that fueled local economies. German immigrants brought brewing traditions with them, and cities like Piqua thrived on local-made lager. Henry Schneider was one of those early brewers, recognizing the need for consistent cold storage before the age of electronic refrigeration. Schneider had this cellar carved directly into the hillside along the Great Miami River. The location was no accident. The thick earth and stone provided natural insulation. Even in the heat of summer, the temperature inside the cave remained cool and steady, perfect for storing barrels of beer during fermentation and aging. Large wooden barrels would have been rolled inside, stacked carefully, and left to mature in darkness. The river nearby also made transportation easier. Beer could be hauled by wagon, and the water source was vital for brewing operations. For years, Schneider's beer cellar quietly did its job, hidden, efficient, and essential. But ownership would not remain the same for long. Eventually, the property changed hands and was sold to brewer Carl Schnell in 1902. Schnell continued the brewing tradition, using the cellar much as Schneider did before him. The stone cave remained a silent partner in his business, protecting his product, maintaining temperature, and preserving the quality. But the early 1900s brought growing temperance movements across Ohio and the United States. Public opinion was shifting. Laws were tightening, and the brewing industry began to feel the pressure. In 1908, everything changed. During that year, the Rose Law went into effect in Miami County. This law allowed local jurisdictions to vote themselves dry, effectively outlawing the sale of alcohol. For brewers like Carl Schnell, it was devastating. Years of work, infrastructure, investments, and inventory suddenly worthless. With his brewing operation destroyed by regulation, Schnell faced not only financial ruins, but government taxation on beer he could no longer legally sell. Rather than allow authorities to seize or tax his remaining product, legend tells us that Schnell made a bold and dramatic decision. He emptied 40 barrels of beer into the Great Miami River. Barrel after barrel poured out, golden beer flowing into the current, a symbolic end to a once thriving local industry. The river carried away what remained of his livelihood. It was noted several citizens watched in shame as the Great Miami River carried the product downstream. Soon after brewing operations ceased, the cellar that once stored aging lager fell silent. And like many relics of the pre-Prohibition era, it may have simply been forgotten, but fate had other plans. Nearly a decade later, in 1918, a young local Piqua resident and runaway named Hoopy Orzendorf saw potential where others saw abandonment. Rather than let the old beer cellar crumble into obscurity, Hoopy converted the stone cave into a home. Yes, a home. The naturally insulated structure that once preserved beer was now a shelter. Modifications were made to make the space livable. The thick stone walls provided steady temperature year-round. The river flowed nearby, and the hillside offered quiet and seclusion. For decades, Hoopy lived here inside what had once been a bustling storage hub for Piqua's brewing industry. Over time, locals referred to this site as Hoopy's Cave. A remarkable transformation, commercial beer storage facility reshaped into a private dwelling, a symbol of industry turned into a symbol of resourcefulness. Hoopy lived there until later relocated to a brick home behind the cottage bakery, where he stayed until his death in the late 1950s. And with his passing, the cave entered yet another chapter, one of mystery, memory, and local legend. Today, the old cellar remains one of Piqua's hidden historical treasures. Few realize the layers of history embedded in that hillside. The next time you find yourself near the Great Miami River in Piqua, look towards the bank. Beneath the trees and earth lies more than stone. It's a story of brewing ambition, of government reform, of loss, reinvention, and survival. And it's a reminder that sometimes the most fascinating pieces of history are the ones hidden in plain sight.